So remember when I said this?
Recognize that this is an MMO and things are constantly in motion.
Yeah, I had no idea how true that would end up being. So let's talk about expectations versus reality and what we actually got in this patch. Blizzard hit us with these patch notes. So this was happening while we weren't able to get in, a couple hours before servers came up. Sun Fury was nerfed in a bunch of different ways. They nerfed Glorious Incandescence. They nerfed how much damage you got from Spellfire Spheres and Lingering Embers. They nerfed the Mana Cascade effect. So all of these cut away at the power of Sun Fury. They also nerfed Spellslinger, specifically when it came to the splinters generated by your orb. And then they also nerfed Arcane just in general, and this actually hit both Spellslinger and Sun Fury. Now, obviously, this hit Spellslinger less because, you know, the hero talents for Spellslinger, they still have a nice boon with Aether Vision that's still really good with them. And, you know, less of these changes affect Spellslinger specifically. Now, one thing that's interesting is that this change right here actually nerfed Frost a lot. Like a lot, okay? So this was not intended. I don't know if it's going to stay. I don't know if they're going to fix it, but this was like a massive Frost nerf because of how they implemented this. Apparently, it also hit Frozen Orb as well, even though in the patch notes, it's very clear that they mean for this to only be a nerf to Arcane. This is good or bad, depending on how you feel about Frostmage. It was looking like Frostmage was just going to be the default pick based on these notes, but once we found out that this was also affecting Frost, well, that went out the window, and it kind of equalized this nerf. Arcane is not necessarily nerfed compared to how it was before. It's just nerfed compared to the buffed version that we never got to play. Okay, hopefully that's clear. Okay, so now that we know what they've actually changed here, let's look at how it actually affects things. So I went ahead and made a new version of the chart from before, and you can see there's a lot of stuff changing here, aside from the purple color being slightly off. But anyway, so for single target, right, here's where we are now. Lots of mix-ups. Frost, Frostfire on top of Frost. Spellslinger Arcane on top of Arcane. Also, Fire not too far behind. I guess the best way to make Fire viable again was to just nerf the living hell out of the other mage specs, and hey, 1.39 doesn't sound too bad anymore whenever our best one is at 1.5. So just for comparison, before it was at 1.7 versus 1.39. That's a huge gap. Not really viable. In this case, we're not that far off. So we're within the stone throw distance here. But yeah, Frostfire, pretty strong here, actually kind of neck and neck with Spellslinger. If we move over to 2 targets, you'll notice that Frostfire still neck and neck with Spellslinger, right? Very strong. This is kind of Frost's niche, though, to target cleave. So yeah, Frost does pull ahead of Arcane here. But you can see that Spellslinger is much higher up here than Sun Fury already, even at 2 target cleave. And if we go to prio damage, it's also beating it out in prio damage as well. Just for comparison, before this change, this is what it looked like, 2.3 at the top. 2.3, that really hasn't changed. It's mainly Arcane that just shifted down the list. Okay, moving on to 3 target cleave. So in 3 target cleave, Fire is on top now. Before it was Arcane. Before it was 3.3 million as Arcane, by the way. Now we're only doing 2.8 as Arcane. Pretty significant nerf there. But again, Fire back on the menu. It's actually looking pretty strong. If we go down to Frostfire Frost, Frostfire Frost is handily ahead of Spellslinger now in 3 target cleave. So you can kind of see a trend here, right? There's been a huge mix-up. Frostfire is now looking just better in general for Frost. Spellslinger is looking better in general for Arcane. Yeah, times are changing. Lots of stuff shifting. But in priority damage, Spellslinger, Arcane still very, very strong. Moving on to 5 targets. So this is more like the Mythic Plus scenario, I guess you could say. So before, Spellslinger was just like clearly the winner. It wasn't even close. Now it's much closer. Fire is kind of neck and neck with Spellslinger. So very, very close here. Just keep in mind, you are giving up a lot of single target to go this build, right? This is not the same Fire as the single target one we showed before here. You're missing like 200k damage playing this build. But anyways, Spellslinger still very, very strong. Sun Fury falls off. Frostfire also very strong here. Better than Spellslinger. So yeah, honestly, if I was to play Frost, I would probably play Frostfire. You could play Spellslinger. They're both really, really close. But I actually would prefer to play Frostfire as Frost. So that's good news. And then priority, nothing surprising here, right? Arcane's still on top. That's kind of the king. But yeah, Frostfire, not too bad right there. And then moving on to 8 targets. So at 8 targets, Fire was already very, very strong, right? Just for comparison, at 8 targets, Fire is just absolutely blasting. But not quite as high up as it was before. And then we have Spellslinger. By the way, the reason why Fire is like having these issues is because it runs out of mana. Like if you try to Flame Strike every global, it's really bad. You will run out of mana so fast. It just doesn't make sense. How many times do we have to have mana be a problem for fire before we just recognized that this isn't working. Anyways, but yeah, so Spellslinger on top here is Frost, right? In mass AoE, but Frostfire honestly neck and neck, so you could go either or. And then Spellslinger is right here as Arcane. So not quite as good at 8 targets. Obviously, that is kind of the byproduct of being capped at 5 targets whenever it comes to most of your AoE. But yeah, that's kind of like the general idea of how things are changing. Just for comparison, again, this was before, this is after, right? Damage numbers across the board are lower. Mage is kind of like, it was looking to be overpowered. Now it's looking to be kind of the same as it was before. But yeah, hopefully this gives you an idea of where the meta is. And just keep in mind that Fire back on the menu, Frostfire back on the menu, might even be just like meta for Frost. Spellslinger better than Sunfury, but Sunfury is fine if you want to stick with that. Okay, and lastly, we do also have some changes to Devastation that were not included in the patch notes. So they said Permeating Chill was going to be baseline. They forgot to implement it, so there's just no Permeating Chill right now. But they did buff our tier bonus. So the 4-piece bonus now works with Shattering Star as well as Eternity Surge, which is nice. And also it's 4 seconds instead of 3 seconds, which is also nice. One other change, I'm not sure if this is intended, but Deep Breath doesn't work like it did before. Like you used to be able to do like strafing AD with Deep Breath to control it. Now you can't do that. No idea if the Deep Breath thing is intended, but it's hard to say, right? Because this patch has been kind of a, it could have been a little bit better implemented. But obviously Ellie Shaman, very, very strong right now. Just absolutely destroying in damage. Mage not looking too hot, kind of just down below here, pulling up the bottom. So hopefully this isn't the last of the last second hotfixes. Hopefully there'll be another update and I'll have to change this video again. But until then, just try to hang in there. And hopefully better times are coming for us soon. All right, and that is going to be it for today. So I just wanted to give you a quick update. And I'm sure that there'll be more quick updates in the future as well. Also expect guides to be coming out soon. But again, stuff is changing so rapidly that I want to make sure that by the time I make the guide, it isn't out of date because they change stuff again. But anyways, thank you all for watching. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a like. And if you want to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.